Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Man, I am glad to have you with us. I am super stoked for today. So, usually I invite people as I get to know them on, here on LinkedIn or my personal network. Today, I've known someone for over 2 years. And today, actually, is the first time that we connected here, which is an absolute travesty. We should have done this way before. But today's guest, you're going to hear about his story going literally from working in the grocery store to being an entrepreneur to breaking in SaaS to now being an enterprise AE. Oh, by the way, he never went to college. And we're going to dive totally into that. Roy Schumacher, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Good, Dave. Good to meet you, man. I mean, it's well,
Yeah, no,
meet
we
you.
should have
Yeah, you
done
know how
this.
that goes.
We should have done this so long ago, and it pinged a nerve in my body going, man, Roy's exactly right. We should have did this because you said the same thing. And I said there's five other guys I should right now, there's five other people in my network I should reach out and say, hey man, you want to get together for a cup of coffee in the morning and just
100%.
share information, right? And we can probably get into that a little bit, man. But just diving in, like I told you before we hit the record button here, I always look for kind of like what angle we're going to talk about, what's going to be good to talk about, what are people going to be interested in. The more I got into your background, I was like, that's it. It's easy, right? It just hit me like square in the face. Dude, it's so cool. So the one thing, like before we came on, you just teased me a little bit with it and said, okay, you were a butcher. Like we're talking like chopping the meat and like doing the cool stuff, right? From
Yep.
like what age did you start that, man?
So it's actually pretty wild, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. So when I was 14 years old, there was a local grocery store, and I was like essentially tired of my parents saying, no, you can't have that. So I was like, I'm gonna go get a job. So I didn't have a car, I just walked to work. And I mean, but it's funny too, because it's like being my wife laughs still. It's like I was in like middle school, elementary school selling pogs,
Oh
baseball
yeah.
cards. It just
Oh,
was
man,
kind of
you're like
like
the
my
kid with
vibe
the
and
the kid
feel.
with the coat and the watches. Like, yo, man, I got it. Man, I got
But
something. Like, what do you got?
exactly. So it's just kind of like, to be honest, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was just trying to get through high school. And then when I went into college, I went for one semester. I was like, I can be a lawyer. I can talk to anybody and convince anybody anything. And I was there like, you have to read these books. And I was like, no. And I just bailed.
I'm
And then
out.
I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of lived through life. But then I was always like the really high end athlete in high school, but I was a skinny dude. I'm 6'3", but I was only 160 pounds. So I was a beanpole, right? So like when I got into college age, I was like, I'm going to put on some weight. Started going to the gym obsessively, put on a bunch of weight really fast, got in shape really quick. And a lot of my buddies were like, hey, can you personal train me? And I'm still a butcher at this time. So I'm like, yeah, personal train. Then can you group train us? Yeah, yeah, sure. Can you do boot camps? And I just basically took my full time union job and flipped it to a weekend job for the benefits. And then I ran my business and built it from scratch from a local gym. I rented their racquetball court and then their basketball court. And then I got a place down the street from them. And then it just grew, 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 grew. We even had a licensee in Texas that I launched. And then that never caught wind, kind of like franchising out. But yeah, I kind of just fell into line and built it brick by brick, like membership by membership. And then COVID came and our bread and butter was 30, 40 person boot camp classes. So living in the Bay Area, especially, a lot of people took COVID the way they wanted to take it, but the Bay Area did not take it well. And they shut down an entire business. So dozens of employees, me and my wife, we ran the business. We never had any funding or seeding or anything. So we were kind of on our own. And I thought, we're going to survive this and we're going to pick up everyone else's business and equipment and locations. And it just went on and on and on and on and on, man. And it just chopped away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So until I keep going, I'll kind of stop
Can
there.
I
But
go
yeah, that was
back
kind
to
of the
you being a
beginning.
butcher at 14? Like, can I go back to you chopping meat at like walking to work and like someone handing the 14-year-old like a cleaver and just hacking? Like, what is there rules against this? It seems like there should be some sort of safety measure. Like, but I guess back then, like whatever, man. Like, hey, get in there, kid. You
Dude,
know?
this was the late 90s probably, right? So it's like, and to be honest, it
OSHA
was like
OSHA wasn't around in late 90s. Like, hey man,
it
whatever.
was.
Hide the hey, OSHA's coming. Hide the kid. Like, just keep chopping the meat.
Give him the
Hilarious.
lollipop instead. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was just I just kind of fell into things. And then running my business, my buddies were all in San Francisco and they were all in tech and they were all in sales. And they were like, dude, come work with us. We're crushing it, right? 2000s, early 2000s. And I'm like, dude, I got 7 leases. Like, there's no way I'm just going to jump.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
never had the opportunity, but always looked at it as a regret. And then when COVID came, I thought, well, this is my chance, right? Like I can pivot. And the thing that blew me away, Dave, is that we can go into this is like eating the humble pie of like, I was interviewing with orgs that had less revenue than my business did.
Right.
And they were like, you have no tech experience. You can't be an AE. You can't be a director or VP. I'm like, I wait, what? And then so I kind of had to break that barrier, but I just kept having to eat humble pie. And I basically joined an org out of San Francisco that was as an SDR as their first sales hire as a team of like 18 people. And that was my break in. It was like I had no choice. I tried every angle, but I was like, I got to take care of my family. So I
Yep.
just basically started at the bottom ring.
Yeah. I love the fact that you just said, okay, I mean, look, it sucks you had to give up the business. I mean, but things happen for a reason, right? I mean, I'm a firm believer of that. So you come in and I have up, but oh, by the way, you post up, I love this, by the way. You post up your quotas here from that job. So I'll just read them off real quick in case, right here, 130, literally day one, Q1, 131, 146%, 134, 119, go into AE, right? So that makes sense. 1 year SDR, quick, and then you crush immediately as an AE at 140% quota, right? So what in your experience as that entrepreneur gave you, hey man, I can come into tech and do this? What was that translation that carried over?
I think I will tell you from the baseline is like grit and grind, right? It's like we could have all of our gyms pumping, right? Thousands of members a day in and out, and I'd still go on and clog a toilet. Or we have a leak in the sink, and I'd go suck the carpet dry with our vacuum. Like I think a lot of the fall off is you become go SDR, you go AE, you go manager, you make your way up, you forget the stuff that made you jump the next level. And it's like even today, like my previous job to this, I joined Aaron because it was employee referral automation software, and it's the product market fit that is at every company. But previous to that, I ran a sales team and sales enablement for a whole company NAS, and it was like I didn't forget. I was still booking meetings, emailing, LinkedIn, connecting. Like that never left, and I think that's what just carried me constantly. Is because I'm sure you see this sometimes. Is like AEs get an AE role and they go, all right, feed me leads, spoon feed me, I'm ready. Like I cut my teeth. And I think that was the transfer was like, I love the Will Smith thing of like, I'm the hardest worker in the room. Like I'll join a team and I guarantee I'm not the smartest, but I'll find the best way to do our job, the easiest and most efficient. And then I'll 5X that. And then how can you lose? Right. And that's kind of like the angle that I've always kind of pitched when I walk into something.
Love that, man. That's it right there. Usually I have to go. Sometimes we go into these in these interviews or whatever the hell you want to call this, right? Podcasts and just conversations. And I'm always looking for that 45 seconds, minute that if I'm listening, I take away and I go, okay, that's my one takeaway. And I'm sure there's going to be others. That's it right there. I love that, right? Of the going, okay, I started out when you first came in and you're married, I guess, at this time as an SDR, like maybe a family and, such. I have to succeed right now. Look, I mean, the family's still going to be there. They're still going to love you if you come home and have a rough day or a bad quarter, but you get my drift. Hey, we got to make this work. Okay. And then
Yep.
you never lose that attitude and spirit and kind of grind and almost like chip on the shoulder a little bit of, I'll show you. I mean, I got you. Like, okay, hang tight real quick. Hold my
Yep.
beer maybe, right? And go in and crush. I mean, that's awesome. Now, when you interviewed and you came from owning a business for 14 years, literally, that's not a 2 year kind of gig and oh, I'm out. That's 14 years, right, of daily grind. And you go into tech. Did you get pushback on your background and like the no college and all that? I mean, did you
Yep.
get, I mean, like literally, hey, not even going to get an interview and a sniff because of it?
No, I mean, dude, I'll tell you, like, I started out and it was like VP of sales applications, director, manager, AEs. My buddy Brett, he worked for Dayforce, Copper, all these big companies that got acquired out of the city. And he knows this stuff. And he was like, look, man, now go to AE, enterprise, try that, try mid market, try SMB, try commercial, try everything. And it was just crickets, dude, for months. Like no one would give me the time of day. And then when I finally got into SDR applications, I actually found the company. I started out on Angel's List. Now it's called something else.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, to be honest, dude, like two really good guys who were like, I see it, man. Like I see your
There it
potential of
is.
like, if we scale, you could be a CRO one day, but we're not there yet. We're only 18 people, but we're going to give you a shot. And it was like, you give me a shot, like 100%, I'm going to break every expectation you have. And no one would give me that in like big SaaS business, right? So like the small startup world. And then, I mean, man, I was booking meetings the first week. I didn't even know how to speak SaaS. I didn't know anything about tech, but it's just like, I know what the end game result is. And I just reverse engineered that into like a mutual action plan, like I would do for my business when we'd go sell big businesses on like putting services on site. I knew how to speak the language and what they end game, what did they wanted to see. So just I was like full cycle selling as an SDR out of the gate almost. And then they were like, we weren't expecting this type of growth. And then we got acquired by another company like within 18 months or so. So it was a pretty wild ride and I learned a lot really quick.
That's awesome, man. Like, I mean, look, I went to school. I have a little bit of a different view on this, not well, I shouldn't say view, but I look at it sometimes as yes, the college degree, I think that it provides a little bit of like substance in certain things, right? It does show me a little bit, like maybe I would say, is it writing? Is it something where you learned those skills probably in that gym, in the owning the gym, right? Whereas others may have to learn that in school. So now I'm going to say, do you think, I'll put you on the spot a little bit, do you think coming out of high school, do you think just rolling out of high school, you can go right into that SDR mode that you kind of went into and have the same success? Or would it elongate it out a little bit? Or yeah, like how do you see that?
Dave, and I'm sure you see this day in and day out, right? Like sellers, they always say, like, if you're in sales, you make good money. Like, no, if you're good at sales, you make good money. Like, so I wouldn't advise an 18-year-old, hey, dude, don't even go to college. Just roll the dice and go be an SDR because they may not have, you know
Yeah.
how it is. Like,
Yep.
maybe it's Q1 of you're fully ramped and you book nothing.
Yeah.
Now what? Right. And now you have nothing to go back on. So, like, for
Yeah.
me, like, I have a 20-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 1-year-old. I have 4 kids. And I tell them, only thing you need coming out of high school is a plan. You want to be HVAC and you want to go to trade school. You want to go to the Marines, go do that, right? You want to go, you want to go to college, go to college. You want to go to community, you want to go to Harvard. Just figure out what you want your plan to look like. You don't have to know what every step is. Just pick a lane, right? You can't be widespread because that's when you'll drop all the balls, right? So that's the kind of way I look at it. But if I knew someone pretty in depthly, like mentoring a kid, in his
Mhm.
teens, I may be able to say, like, dude, you could just go be an SDR right
See,
now,
I
man.
equate, so I come from a military background and
Yeah.
I equate like I there is an element here of I used to work with some of the folks who did recruiting, which is where I kind of grew into after, I don't know, like X amount of years of running around the woods. And I'll tell you what, I could take those folks, right, who hit the phone, who are calling up the high school seniors, who are calling the guidance counselors, who got to get the meeting, who have that. Give me a Marine Corps recruiter and put him as an SDR, her as an SDR. Like,
Game over.
it's over, right? Like anybody listening, just go on LinkedIn and just type in, Marine Corps recruiter. Go find someone who's transitioning out. I swear they will just crush. They'll be like, wait a second. All I got to do is get person X into meeting Y. That's it, right? Like, no, like that's it. That's what you're asking me to do. Got it. Not a problem. Hang tight real quick. So yeah, so I look at that. I mean, you're obviously entrepreneur, background translates in. I look at that as a military piece, for the most part. And I think it's the same. I would be really curious what happens in 10 years, right? In 10 to 15 years, I really wonder will we evolve? Will it still be the same? Is it a 2-year degree that I'm kind of now, looking at? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to me for just, I don't know if I guess I'm hanging around for 10 more years. I mean, I don't know. I'm not as young as you, man. But so what's the like when you take a look now, right? And looking back, and you've been in the game now for a while, and now you're up to enterprise. What's changed? What's been the big change for you over these like 4 or 5 years as you take a look from day one of SDR to enterprise AE now?
It's like a lot of people could probably elaborate more on the change because I actually broke in November of 2020 in the
Yeah,
midst of whatever you want to call it of
yeah, yeah,
COVID, the heightened area. And
yeah.
I think people's mindsets just kind of changed. And then like I feel like bulk spray and pray just dissipated over the
Hmm.
years. Like I almost feel like COVID came and everyone dealt with the hardest part of their life. Like people may have been skating through life, but then COVID came and everyone's life just became a crap storm, right?
Hmm.
Just to be straight. And then they kind of got over the crap of it. So like now they don't just read some bad email that's 5 paragraphs long because they're at their desk, they have nothing to do. Like a lot of more people are remote and things like that. So like I've noticed that like when I joined Aaron, we eliminated cold email and a lot of cold calling. And we do LinkedIn, relationships, authenticity, curiosity. And that's where we book all of our meetings. Like just genuinely curious on the betterment of your business from an employee referral, internal mobility standpoint. And people resonate with that. Like, so I think during COVID, people realized how much they yearn for relationships, and it destroyed a lot of the like, hey Dave, I'm going to send 5,000 emails today and book 25 meetings. Those days are gone. So like I kind of saw like the Berlin Wall crumble, right, of like that methodology and it die out, and it was really interesting to like watch as it kind of crumbled and fell, if you ask me.
No, so I started into SaaS. I want to get this right. I think it's August of 2020, right? So you and I are kind of aligned.
Yeah.
I never looked at it that way, but you know what? It's a damn good way to look at it, right? It's a matter of, so do you think without COVID, do you think that 5,000 emails to get 20 meetings to get the 4 conversations, 2 proposals, and 1 client, does that change? Or do you think just over time it would have changed anyway, but COVID, sped it up real damn quick?
I think it sped it up because, like I mentioned, my buddy Brett earlier, he's been in the game like 20 years, right? A San Francisco startup, like
Sure.
crush it, get acquired, get a big payout, move on type of thing. And he said the same thing, like, man, I used to be able to hire an SDR and go, you're making 400 calls a day. You're never going to hit that, but that's your goal nonstop, right? And then that was the game, and they crushed it. And it's like, I don't really think you can duplicate that output over outcome anymore. You know what I mean? It's changed a little bit. So, like you said, it may have just sped it up, right? It
They
may have
sped
been
it
20
up is
years
my
coming and we did it in 4, you know what I mean? Type of
correct.
thing.
Right. Now, obviously, there's a lot of discussion out there on SDRs, the role, AE full cycle, right? Because of exactly what you just said, right? Now it's, and obviously budget comes into play, or let's be honest here, right? In terms of this, how do you see it?
I laughed. I don't know if you follow Tim Davidson on
Oh
LinkedIn. He
yeah.
does he does a lot he does a lot of funny stuff. He did this video today. It was like a TikTok about how you expect going into a sales motion or procurement or whatever you want to call it, of like going through all these steps. And one big thing for me was when I interviewed with people, I'm like, I want to be able to control my sales process. And if I disagree with you, I want to be able to without getting heat, right? Like I want to be able to challenge you. Those are my 2 criterias. And I laugh because I watched this video of, if you booked with me, Dave, in that call of 30 minutes, I can show you, Aaron, tell you what the procurement process, the implementation, the integration, how much it costs, what you can expect, and send you a proposal. And that's it. So, like, if you're a serious buyer, I have a serious offer for you. But I laugh because people do that. Hey, I want to put in a demo request, and then you don't get a response for 3 days. And then you don't see them for a week. And it's like, they say, oh, buyers make it hard. To be honest, like a lot of sellers make it hard. So,
Oh,
like, I see that full cycle of like that. That is the way of the future. If you can make the lowest barrier of entry as low as possible, then people will inquire and they'll want to know and they'll follow through. But if you don't and make it hard, it's already hard for them, right? So like that's the way I look at it, is like, how can I support you, Dave, in your exploration of my product, not
Yes.
vice versa? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now you mentioned your company does not do the cold outreach, the cold email, the cold call, and you mentioned, hey, LinkedIn, connections. What are you doing to create that the buzz, or the conversations, or at least the questions, right? Is there
Yeah.
something different you're doing out there in terms of the market or social that you didn't do 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think what it's been more is like a refined curiosity to the right person rather than mass blast
Understand
information
it.
and shove it down your throat, right? So like
Yep.
my methodology is simple. They write like, I connect with you and you
Mhm.
accept. And I'm like, hey Dave, thanks for your connection. And then a
Mhm.
couple days later, I'll go, hey Dave, I'm curious, who runs your employee referral program at Seamless?
Yep.
Super harmless, right? And you could be like, oh, Roy, that's me, or that's Mrs. Jones's team. And I'm like, hey, like, would you be open to just like, can I get Mrs. Jones? It's most of the time I don't really ask for her info. I'll just go find it these days. And I'll
Mhm.
be like, hey, Dave, thanks. I really appreciate it. And you're like, oh, great. I helped someone. And then I'll ping Mrs. Jones. Hey, Ms. Jones spoke, chatted with Dave for a second. He said you run the employee referral program at Seamless. Like, are you seeing any of these challenges? Because most of our clients, that's what they saw previously. Curious again. And it's just getting the conversation going. Because if she responds, then there's an interest there, and then there's intention for an opportunity. And if not, I don't want to headlock someone into a meeting when there's
Yeah.
no up, right? And like, to be honest, like that's where I feel like a lot of the sales churn is happening these days. I bug Dave for 3 weeks straight every other day until you take a meeting to shut me up. There's no viable op there. So you don't hit quota, you get churned, you go to the next company. So for me, it's like book meetings, yes. Close deals, yes. But like book meetings that are viable, and then that's a realistic pipeline, right? So like that's the kind of way we've done it differently. And it's just been, it feels less hectic. It's like a really smooth Cadillac ride, right? With all of our A's, how we're doing it, rather than like, got to pick up the phone, got to hit 60 calls, got to do, I got to call on Halloween because I don't know what to do, right? Like, so it feels less erratic.
I have to call on Halloween. That's classic. The From that standpoint, though, you have a point of view. Hey,
Yeah.
this is my point of view in terms of what really is bugging, your VP of HRs, or chief people officer,
Yeah.
however you want to have, but you have a defined point of view. Now, when you go into that, if you're not sending, are you going through the are you going through a connection of, okay, that's a good person I would like to connect with. That makes sense. It hits my ICP. Okay,
Yep.
let's go into that. Right. Okay. I'm with you on that. I want to take a step back from where you are, though. You went through layoffs,
Yep.
in the middle of this, SaaS, and then into, which, it's just common, right?
Yep.
The But you credited LinkedIn for your network, and you went from what, green banner, open to work, to hired within like 30 days. Like, it was fast. I remember reading that post.
Yep.
Like, I researched it this morning over coffee, but you get the idea. I mean, what is LinkedIn? What has LinkedIn done for you in terms of just your network, man?
Well, what it's done is that like there's a lot of people out there building a following, right? And then I think they do themselves a disservice and they stop there. You can build relationships like this, Dave, right? Like I
Yeah,
connect with you and we chat right now.
yeah,
I'm not stressed. I'm like, this is just a buddy that I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
chatting with, right? Like,
yeah.
and we've never even connected. So the point is like, I will take it a step further and actually create authentic relationships and ask questions and like go more than just the business. Like, hey man, I saw that you posted about mountain biking. Like, what's that like, dude? Is that what you do for cardio? Like, I'm always struggling to find stuff like just general. I think we see things and it resonates or generates an emotional response, and we kind of just scroll past it. But I'll stop and email people, message people, whatever it is. And then
Right.
when I went through layoffs, I actually had 30, 40 people that I just said, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity. Like, unfortunately, I got hit with a restructure. Like, let me know what you're open to. And it was funny because at that company I got laid off from, I was at a conference and I met Mike, my current CEO, was
Mhm.
at that conference. And
Yeah,
we hit it off and I chatted it up with them for 3 or 4 minutes. And there was no benefit to me. I sold recruitment marketing and they were an employee referral software company.
sure.
Why would I waste my time talking to someone like that? Right. So,
Yeah.
but then immediately I was like, hey, Mike, I met you and Denny and Austin. I'm looking for an AE role. You're hiring. Like, can we chat? I mean, dude, within 5 days, had the interview, talked to the board, boom, 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 offer done. I was back in a seat in less than a month. So, I mean, it's just like leveraging it. You're only going to get out of it what you've poured into it over the years. And then when it's time, pull that lever and just watch what happens. And I think people are just be blown away.
Yeah. It's, one of the things that I love about this podcast is that I get to hear these crazy stories, right? And I get to just learn and hear different points of view. It forces me into doing this. I am bad at it, right? It is historically, I I say I'm going to do it every month. Literally every month, I write it down. Hey, like what went good and what went bad this month, right? And work out up and down and blah. And literally every month, I go, I have to do this, right? And literally, I'm just bad at it, right? And I have good relationships with people out there. I can ping somebody like you mentioned Darren McKee. I think you met in like New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
And you were chatting with him, and all of a sudden you guys were at the same conference, and hey man, you've known each other. It feels like you've known each other for
Yep.
forever, right? So it is something that I have heard, and people have looked at me and said, "Are you doing that?" I go, "No," right? It is something I need to do more. I'm super happy that you brought that up, right? I was not going to, that wasn't a topic I was going to head down, not because I was avoiding it, just
Yeah.
because I didn't really think about it. But now that you say it's so. If you're going to have the connection with people, why not just get to know them a little bit? Like we all have 15 minutes to take, and you never know what you learn or how you can help them, or just a referral to whoever.
Yep.
So it's. I mean, and knowing what you do now, given I was in recruiting and half my connections are on there, or VP of HRs, it's probably some stuff I can help you with, right? So,
I
um,
was just going to say the same thing. You know, how many people have said, like, I need X. And I'm like, check out Seamless. I don't even have to say, like, hey, Dave, send me an affiliate link. And how do I don't care about that. I'm just like,
yeah,
go check out
that's
Seamless. Like,
classic.
here's
But
their
no,
LinkedIn page. You know how simple that is? You know what I mean?
I
So
mean,
it's
yeah,
makes it
like I
easy.
mean, I was mentioning to you before we hit the record button here. Um, was I got a message and I owe him a response here. Today was one of those days, and he wrote back from a 2021 message on a DM, and I'm going to get his approval and see if I can post it up because I think it's so cool. And he goes, "Look, man," he goes, "you post every day. That's crazy." He goes, "Can we revisit this?" It was 3 years ago when I sent the message to him, and he wrote back. I'm like, all right, I don't know. I mean, there was nothing special in the message. Don't get me wrong, but he remembered because of the platform, right? And I look at AEs, enterprise AEs, really anybody doing kind of what we do, and I go, how can you not take advantage of this, right? It's
Yep.
just, I mean, I remember when I was calling out of a book. Now I'm going to show my age here. It was a book, and it would be like categorized, and you would go and you would find plant manager and call and go, "Hi, Bob," right? Like literally now you go on, you search, you connect, you link. It's so
Wild.
it's so wild, and this platform is it's morphed. I tell people, I remember when you couldn't be caught looking at LinkedIn because that's where people got hired and interviewed only. There was no
Yep.
content. It was you post
Nope.
your resume and that's it.
Yep.
And so I look at it now and I go, okay, what's 8 years from now look like? What
Yep.
is right? Like what we're doing now, what's that going to look like 8 years from now? Are they going to look at us like it's a stone age compared to what we're doing then?
Probably.
Probably, right? So it is interesting to me. What do you think is your what's the hurdle you face? What's that big hurdle out there, from you as an enterprise AE that you're like, man, it is, I mean, that's the tough thing for me.
You know what it is? I think it's that I'm sure this aligns with every seller in the world out there, is that like your buyer is so busy
Yeah.
that if the more of an educational sell your product is, the less ear time you have. So it's almost like I'm always refining our messaging to be more and more and more concise,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I laughed the other day, my CEO was like, our number one open rate for messaging
Yep.
is employee referrals as a subject line, no caps. That's it. Because it's so simplistic that like I laugh and I felt like lavender and them and all that. And it's like we're just getting smaller. And I'm like, when are we gonna have a hieroglyphic for like, do you want to buy this product? Because that's the direction we're going, right? So but that's kind of what I would say is the biggest part, is that I can go to any talent acquisition manager in the world loves our product. Every director loves our product. VP of TAs do too. But like as I go up the ladder to the person closer to the checkbook, they have less and less time. So once I get in front of a CHRO and I'm like, if I move your needle 1% when it comes to referrals hired, cost, time to fill, faster fill rate, all the buzzwords we like to use in talent, is that you will change the game and 10x your ROI based on the cost of this product. They're like, yeah, we're in. But just getting to that point
Yep.
is the journey that sometimes like we don't lose to a competitor. We lose to no decision, or I can't get their attention. That's my
Yep.
only problem these
Yep.
days. Like that sounds pompous in a sense, but like that's kind of where we're at, right? And
Yeah.
that's we're refining that process of the right ear that owns the budget and owns the decision, understanding their need and their pain, and just all you need is 10 minutes to whisper that in, and it becomes a no-brainer. So that's where because I think the selling world is noisier, because it's like everyone's frantically like, what do I do? Let's just do
Mm-hmm.
more. And it just makes it noisy. And then like no one wants to listen anymore. So then once you get the right ear, then you're gold, but it's hard to get that because it's so noisy out. It's like living by the freeway type of thing, I would assume, for buyers.
Let me push here a little bit on something.
Yeah.
What if, what if I'm going to your CEO and I said, hey, instead of just sending the cold email, come work with us. What if you guys did the campaign on all these topics that are facing, CHROs right now in terms of war on talent, um, you know, these interview rules, the hybrid work versus remote work versus in the office. What if you did, is there any merit for companies who do a value add campaign? Zero of, oh, by the way, here's a use case testimonial, none of that. But literally just value add either through email or LinkedIn or, kind of getting the message out there that here is content. And then now my connection request comes in and, oh, by the way, now I recognize the symbol, I recognize the name. Hey, that company provides good content, and now I'm drawn in. Do, do you think that has any merit in terms of what companies could do?
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of good companies with a lot of good solution that no one's ever heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I look at it, Dave, is like I always try to look at it in like real life, right? Like real life concept. So if it was like, hey, Roy, a guy down the street selling a car for $5,000, sweet, that's a car I need. A guy in the middle of Sacramento downtown who wants to meet at 11 p.m. is selling it for $4,000. Like it's just like I don't know. Like my friend said his buddy, and then you're saying a stranger in a precarious situation has it for she. Like I don't know. I may lean to just buy from the social proof and the trust and the relationship, and I
Yeah.
think that's the way it's going, right? So like
Yeah.
I think you're on LinkedIn as much as me, maybe more, right? But like HubSpot, Chili Piper, I love all of that. Like I would buy from them because I like them, and I don't
Yeah.
even need them
Oh,
yet. But when
I
it comes
mean,
time, I like them. It's a
one of
no
my
brainer. You know what I mean?
cooler interviews, I'm going to plug, Audience Plus up here and Amanda.
Yeah.
Um, she says every company is going to be a content production company, right? And it goes into what we're saying, that how do I build trust in your organization before I meet you as a seller, right? And now we're saying that like 80% of the research is done before they even meet you. And we saw, I'm going to get Sarah, right? Sarah Brazier, who came from,
Yeah,
where did she come from? Chili Pepper? Is that right?
Gong, I think.
Gong, thank you. She came from Gong, and it's her, and I'm going to get the other two members wrong, so I'm not going to not going to butcher it. But now there's a demo
The
that's kind
the
of
demo, yeah,
right.
demo
The
or
demo,
dymo or
hilarious, by
whatever.
the way, right? So now you can go look at the platform, get an idea, do more of that research now before I even come to you, right? It, I mean, that wasn't here 2 years ago. I mean, that's
I
changed.
mean, Dave, what I'm always blown away as, and anybody watching, is to go follow Comsor and Mac Redden, because that guy has got it figured out, man, for the future. Like creating a platform where I can upload my network and Dave's network and connect, and I can look who's buying what products from
Yeah.
your network and my network, and already have the right people who's bought a product that I trust,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm already sold, and I
Yeah.
would just show up. And it's like I'm eliminating the middleman of, I don't need to vet you. You're only going to make this harder for me because I've already
Mm-hmm.
decided.
Yep.
So now, how easy are you going to make this for me? Because that's the way I prefer to do it, right? So it's like ComSource with Bronto and how they connect everyone's network. I don't know if you're familiar, but
I
definitely
am.
look into
Yep.
it. But it's going to change the game, because there's no more, why have an RFP when you can do it yourself, right? Like
That's right.
why do it when you can go like, so
Mm-hmm.
like you said about your friend Amanda, saying like, by putting content and creating a relationship, you are preparing your customer to buy. Like I just had a meeting today, Dave, with somebody where like, this is as plain and simple as they put it to me. Roy, we want to partner with you in a brand partnership because we followed your content. You're personable. We like you. We want to associate our brand with how we feel about you. And I was like, whoa. Like it's that simple where like, I put my face, and I don't have a lot of followers. Like I'm coming up on like 15,000, right? But it's like, that's crazy that's how companies are looking at it. Like they want to get a face, right? Like to attach their company to be the personality, because then you buy because you
Yeah.
trust, and it resonates. It's crazy, man.
100%. By the way, I got 14. I mean, soft flex on your 15K is fine, Roy. I'm that's not a problem. I'm still below you. I mean, don't worry. No. So,
You'll
all
catch
right. So
up.
two things I want to get to here. One is what you post on LinkedIn, and I know it's important to you. You did post it up. Is your faith, right? And that is something that is, I personally believe in it. I posted a little bit about it. You were very open about it, right? Was that a conscious decision? Like when you sat there, did you hit that button and say, man, I'm not sure on this one? Or it just kind of came and said, you know what? I'm gonna write it. Yep, send.
You know what I figured out over time, especially like running a business and then trying to break into SaaS, is like, I think a lot of us, we try to be the square peg in the circle hole. So I'm like, if I'm just wholesomely authentic, then when an op arrives, I fit. Because if it's like, because like, I don't judge people. You want to be an atheist, you want to believe, you would do whatever you want. But like, if that you see that and that turns you off, then like maybe like I'm not going to adjust my morals and ethics to close the deal ever. So if that's something that you expect from your team, then don't hire me. No big deal. I'll find another situation. So like, that's where I slowly learned. Like I just turned like 40 this year, and it's like learning, just be yourself. Like be yourself,
Yeah.
and you'll attract the right people. But if you're wearing 50 masks, you don't even know which one to wear anymore around who, right? So like that's the kind of way I looked at it, is like, let me create the Roy size peg. And then if there is ever a perfect fit, then that's where I'll land. And I
Yeah.
know it's right. You know what I mean? That's kind of where it
I
came
love
from.
that, man. I mean, look, I saw it and I always talk to people on it because I think it's very, to me, it's a decision. I think people like what they post on LinkedIn. Like what is, like I involve my family, right? I
Yeah.
involve, hey, this is who I am. This is it. What's a weekend look like to me? Well, it involves cutting the grass, going to Target, hanging out, I may go play a little bit of golf. It's not like this is who I am, right? So, but it is, I think what you have out there is great. This conversation flowed. I could roll way longer, but
Same.
I am going to get a little bit here, right? You still working out, man? You still like hitting like you still hit the morning workout? Like, of course you are, right? I mean,
Well,
why would I even ask that for God's sake? But go ahead.
what's funny is when I decided, I think it was like, pandemic came March heavy. I think it was like June, July. I told my wife, like, this is over. We're gonna have to shut down and sell everything, do our whole thing, start to consolidate. I kept all the good equipment, and then when we moved to El Dorado Hills, we have two-car garages. I built out a full gym, so now it's like we have 4 children. My wife's finishing up schooling. She never got her degree because we had kids really young, and then and it's like there's no excuse now. So it's like I hit it 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, and I only go out for 5 or 6 minutes, but like that's what I can get in, and that's what keeps me sane. But you take 30 minutes a day and you do it every day, and you stacked it for 5 years, you're going to get some good results. And like that's what I always have this joke where I'll meet teenagers and they're like, "Hey man, I want to get jacked. I want to get big." I'm like, "All right, this is what you do." And they're like, "Cool. How long do I do that for?" I'm like, "About 15 years." And they're like, "Oh my god." And then
Dude,
they
they
just
have
walk
like, dude,
away.
come on, I'm going to the beach like 2 weeks, bro. Like, come on, man. Like, what
You know
up?
what? Reminds me of David. It's the funniest thing because you have stories thousands of years, right? The rich man goes to Jesus and says, "How do I follow you? Sell everything to follow me." And he's all, "There's no way," and he just walks away. That's exactly what it is. It's like there's like one of my quotes that I've carried for decades is like, if you ask someone who wants change, everybody raises their hand. If you say who wants the change, no one raises their hand. Like that is a core nucleus of life where like everybody wants something different, but then nobody goes and votes or nobody goes and cleans up their community. It's always the same answer. And then that's kind of what I go is like, if you want something, just act. Like a good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow type of thing. And that's just kind of how I do. And it's just worked out. So it's just like action wins. And that's kind of with working out. Like, don't think about it for 4 weeks. Just go walk. You don't even have to know what you're doing yet. Just get moving. And then once that habit starts, then refine, and then you're going to win. But if you don't do it and think about it, it's never going to start.
There it is. There's the second one. There, I mean, there it is. Like I said, there's always a couple of moments, man. And by the way, did I catch you right? You got a 20-year-old and a 1-year-old. I mean, did I catch? Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So how's the 1-year-old? Like, how's that working? Like, how's that? I'm sure it's the best part of your day. I mean, you're talking like wake up in the middle of the night kind of stuff, right? Like, man.
And he's spoiled, man. He's my two
Oh,
older
oh,
daughters are 15 and
100%.
20, and I work from home. So you have dad, mom, two big sisters, and a 5-year-old wrestling match brother. And like the kid's just living his best life. You know what I mean? Like, what else could you need? So yeah,
That's awesome. I see the smile. I mean, that's what any parent has, right? It is that smile. No matter how bad your day gets, whatever, right? I can still go into that chaos. And I'm about, God, I'm now what? I'm 2 months out. I'm 2 months out from having an empty nest here. So, that'll be interesting, right? I'll post on that
that'll
one. The
be interesting,
allergies,
man.
the allergies may hit that day a little bit, right? So
Oh,
we'll,
it's
you
I'm not
know,
crying, you're crying.
no,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I mean, we're fine. Let's just go, So we'll see. But that's awesome, man. Well, look, like I said, I could talk forever. That was really interesting to me. Your career, phenomenal, right? And there's a lot of pieces there
Thanks,
that I
man.
hope people take away. Anytime I listen to this, I always take notes. I have my, cool book over here of like notes for the podcast
That is awesome.
and then notes after. I'm like, what am I taking away? Right. And there's a lot that I can take away personally. I'm gonna go work out right now because I feel I'm gonna walk my 3 miles just because I
Get it
can't
in.
now I have to DM you and say I did it right because if not like I can't lie right it'll be like
Post it or it never happened.
oh, of course, post it. I mean, I do a video while I'm walking. So, all right, everybody. Well, look, thank you for being with us. Thanks for hanging with Roy. Roy, thank you again, bro. We're gonna hang out. I swear, we're gonna hang out. Just not here. We're just gonna hang out. I swear, we'll get a cup of
We'll
coffee,
figure it out.
relax. We'll figure it out. And by the way, your 4-car garage is a soft flex as well. Like, do you? I mean, that's I need that in my life, or maybe not. I don't know. So, all right,
Well, I
everybody.
just saw
I
your
hope you
post about
enjoyed
how you
this.
don't need that.
I don't need that. I really don't. I can't clean one. I can't clean one garage, let alone frick or two. So, all All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We're out of here. We're back next week. Be safe.